Fortres Comic News, episode 73. I am one of your hosts, Chris, alongside
Mike, the other host. It's me, and I think we finally did that right once.
Yeah, we did.
73 tries. Actually, technically 74, because this is a re-record of the last, because we said the wrong number, but they don't know about that. That's for the when we release this podcast as a vinyl record for people. That'll be like the B-side takes, all the blooper reel stuff.
Yeah, that's happening too.
We could be the first ones to record podcasts on vinyls. Wouldn't that be awesome?
We wouldn't be the first.
Oh, no? Really?
One of my favorite podcasts does do a yearly vinyl cast.
Well, never mind. We'll come out with a laser disc or an 8-track.
Yes.
We're doing it for our first exclusive. I don't know, 20 subscribers. If we even have 20 subscribers, I don't know. You get a laser disc.
So we got a really cool interview today.
Yes, Jim McCann, writer for Marvel. Very fantastic individual. So we're gonna be cutting that interview in the middle of the show. So stick around for that. Man, great guy, great stuff to talk about. And Chris and I we're both here for this interview, which is it's great.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Which, unlike future episodes where Mike is going to be playing international businessman,
I will have my own questions written out for these interviews that I'll filter through Chris.
Yes,
we're going to work on this a little more. But yeah, it does suck. I mean, I'm going to be really upset about it while I'm in Germany drinking beer. Be very upset.
He's going to be super upset as he sends me pictures of the great beer he's drinking.
Yeah. Anyways, let's cut through the news so we can get to this awesome interview. What's going on in the world of comics? What's happening these days?
All right, so television.
You
did not watch the season finale of Flash, is that correct?
Like I said, my life is... I'm not saying your life isn't busy, but I had some visitors at work last week. I really didn't get a chance to watch anything. But what would you say about the Flash finale this week?
I would say it's really good and really, really fucking infuriating. As with most Flash endings, I feel like I say this every season, they end on a huge cliffhanger, and it's like, all right, now I need next season.
Yep.
But everything gets wrapped up really well, and even though I think I called some of the shots, I still really enjoyed it. And I mean, that's all I'll really say. It was really good. I can't wait for next season now because I'm going to tell you this: you were partially right about the mystery speedster.
Oh, see, DC taking my ideas, huh? All right.
Yeah.
That's nice to hear. I'm not right very often, but I'll probably watch it tonight. I'll catch up on it tonight, I think.
And in a flip of characters this week, I have actually watched a ton of shit. And wow. I also watched The Toys That Made Us Season 2.
Oh, and, you love that show.
Show's really good. We did Transformers, Lego, Hello Kitty, and Star Trek.
Oh, very cool.
Transformers was by far the best of the 4 episodes. Even though I'm like a cursory Transformer fan, just how it came about and all the different things that happened with it was really cool. Show's a really great documentary series. If you have any interest in toys and just history of pop culture, it's worth your watch or your time. So I really enjoyed that. And we do have a bit of TV news as well. Mike, do you like the Venture Brothers?
Oh, man, I love Venture Brothers.
Would you be excited to hear they're coming back this summer?
What? No way. That is awesome. Venture Brothers is one of the... There's like, when you talk Adult Swim shows, there's those like foundation shows that are like, you know, these are what made Adult Swim. And I mean, look, Adult Swim is, I mean, it now has, there's always that show at the time that's like, this is like topping everything else. And I think like when Rick and Morty is out, that's definitely, you know, the one everybody's talking about. Venture Brothers was that show. it was a take on like Johnny Quest, right? I mean, it's like basically Johnny Quest, but
yeah, it was Johnny Quest meets the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, it's like it's ridiculous.
And that says a lot too, because that was kind of at a heyday of Adult Swim when you had C-Lab 2021 and you had Harvey Birdman, Attorney at
Law. Yep.
And all these great shows coming out, and that just kind of was the top tier of these amazing shows. So I'm really happy to see it back too. Like I said, it's
Rock Samson, everybody's favorite character.
I mean, they tap into so much great Marvel stuff that I nerd out whenever they do it.
Yeah. So
I'm super excited to have it happen.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'll definitely watch it. Yep.
Yeah. So movie news.
Ooh.
That's movie news. So Jake Gyllenhaal is up to play Mysterio in Spider-Man Homecoming 2.
So I did hear about this. First off, now I'm not very well versed with the Marvel characters, but Mysterion is a guy that wears the fishbowl on his head and you can't see his face, right?
Correct.
So, does it really make sense to have one of the most prettiest men in the world? It's up for argument, but he's a very pretty man. The internet says so. Okay, it's not just me. Have him play a character where you never see his face. His face is like smoke, or like. Does that really make a whole lot of sense?
Yeah, I wonder if this is going to be, assuming this actually comes to fruition. Yeah. I wonder if it's going to be a Baron Zemo kind of move, where, if you remember from Civil War, Baron Zemo does not look like Baron Zemo.
No, yeah, not at all.
So I wonder if they're going to really just change that character and its look so that they can show off Jake Gyllenhaal. And I mean, he's not only, in your words, the prettiest man alive, but he's also a pretty good actor.
Yeah, so, that too, yeah. And so I feel like you're just voice acting. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I would have never guessed in a million years that Mysterio would be a villain in a top tier movie. So
yeah, and I can almost see it now. They're going to make him into like a smoke monster. You can see it now. They're going to turn him into a smoke monster. It's how does Spider-Man fight someone that's can change their matter? You know, oh no, now he's smoke. I can't fight him.
Yeah.
What do I do? Anyways, but that's cool. I mean, I'm actually excited that it's not. I mean, we've almost had every Spider-Man villain and every iteration of the movies, right? I mean, we've seen Venom, we've seen Doc Ock, we've seen
Green Goblin.
Yeah, we've seen Green Goblin. We've seen the Lizard Man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They did do that.
Yeah, they did the Lizard Man. What was his name? I can't even remember. The Lizard, right? Yeah. I didn't think he had one. We've even seen Rhino.
We did see Rhino.
Was it who was Rhino? Was it Gilbert Godfrey? It was someone ridiculous?
No. Right? I can't remember his name, but he was from that the movie about wine country. Oh man.
But I forgot they did the Rhino at the end of the Amazing Spider-Man movies. And that was actually pretty funny. It wasn't like the Rhino that we know, though. He was in like a mech suit, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm excited that it's a different villain. I think that's cool. And everybody knows the iconic first appearance of I mean, like if you look through comic collections, you've seen that cover of him on the front, like holding his hand out, right? I mean, everybody knows that cover. So I'm excited for the cape and the collar.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he looks more like Doctor Strange.
Yeah, okay. Okay, maybe they go with like a more mystical.
Yeah, and they add like a magic bend to it. Because, I mean, technically he's like a failed magician, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, what a shitty villain. How come we never talked about him? Like, it would be a good time to rekindle that, I think. So maybe we'll talk about that.
Maybe.
Okay.
So also, we'll jump into my review of Solo in a minute. But before that, there's been news on the Boba Fett movie front. James Mangold is going to write and direct it.
Yes.
And you know who James Mangold is, right?
He's the writer-director of Logan.
Yes.
So we're going to get... So I'm just like... when we said that, like, I'm just expecting the opening scene of Logan where he's just murdering those guys, like, in the limo. I'm just like picturing, they wake him up in his ship, like, hey, this is not your ship, and they roll him out, and he's like trashed, and he gets up, and he's like, pew 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 pew. I don't know. I don't know how to do that scene. There's no blood involved because like he cauterizes the wounds, right? So, and obviously it's not going to be that bloody, but it'll look really cool. It's going to be like a John Wick movie. John Wick in space is what we're going to get, I hope.
Oh, dude, I am so excited. I want a Boba Fett movie so much, and I want it to be good. That
actor is ready for it too. The one that played the kid back in the prequels.
See, here's my thing, though. I want them to take the route of extended universe. And in the extended universe, when that happened, because that was such a stupid origin for Boba Fett, what happened was somebody else who was like a huge bounty hunter came about, killed that person, stole their armor, and then took the mantle of Boba Fett.
Oh, okay.
And so I want that to happen so that we don't have to deal with the whole clone thing.
Someone's on the internet said that they would want the Boba Fett movie to be like someone finds his armor in the Sarlacc and like puts it on, and then everybody just mistakes him for Boba Fett for the rest of the movie.
That would be cool too if that person
like they find
the was a badass.
yeah, like they mistakenly find it, and everybody just thinks it's Boba Fett, so they all fear him.
So
yeah, it'll be cool.
We'll jump into this. Mike did not get a chance to see Solo, so I'm going to try not to spoil too much.
But
okay. So
out of 10,
I'm going to start out of 10, 7.
Oof. I don't think we've ever broken 8. That's
in my eyes, this is easily the worst of the most recent batch of movies. That's not a slam on it. It's not a bad movie. It just sits in that good category. They did the cardinal sin that I really didn't want them to do, which is they did the greatest hits of Han Solo. So we get the Kessel Run, we get the meeting with Lando, how he meets Chewie, how he gets the Falcon. All the things you know about Han Solo are in this movie. And I was really hoping they wouldn't fall down that trap. That's my big negative. Another one is like the story just jumps around a bit, so it can be a little bit just disjointing at times. And they try really hard to get you involved in like these B characters and then either kill them off or do something that just doesn't work that well. Now my positive is it's a heist movie, which is what it should have been. So that worked really well. The crew worked really well. Who played Beckett? What was his name again?
Beckett?
Woody Harrelson.
Oh, Woody Harrelson, yeah.
Woody Harrelson did a great job being his kind of mentor into this world.
Yep.
His character was interesting and everything. And then what really got me was there are so many great little Easter eggs throughout this movie. So, do you remember the video game Masters of Terrakasi?
Oh, geez, yeah. Old.
So, this is known as arguably the worst Star Wars video game of all time.
Yeah.
There's an Easter egg for that in this movie, where a character knows the art of Terrakasi.
Oh, man.
There's a returning character from episode 1 who we haven't seen outside of cartoons and comics.
Wow.
And just so many great moments. And then everyone's mad about the whole Falcon thing. You know, the shape of the Falcon and why it doesn't make sense. All I'll say is I was partially right on that, and they fix it.
Okay, yeah.
So it makes sense.
They wouldn't get it so wrong. I mean...
It literally was just done to sell more toys.
Yeah, really, that's all it was done for, yeah.
Yeah. So, all in all, it's good. It's worth your time. It didn't hit the highs of at least in my eyes, Last Jedi or Rogue One. where I thought these movies were really good and compete with the originals. In some cases, are better than the originals.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't go as low as like how most of us feel about the prequels.
It doesn't go Jar Jar Binks on you.
So for me, it sits above Episode 3, but below and everything else. So, and that's not, once again, it's not a slam. It's just there's such a high bar there that
there's going to be good and bad ones, or just ones that you prefer more than others.
Yeah, it kind of hit that. We talked about it months ago. It hit that almost cardinal sin that I didn't want to see them hit, which was it was good. It was okay, you know.
Yeah.
I don't feel really strong one way or the other. But we'll see. I don't think that's not me saying either that I think the next one's going to be really bad or anything. I think this is just a one-off thing that, it happens. Go back and watch some Marvel movies. There's some that are bad and there's some that are just meh.
Iron Man 3. Oh my God.
Oh.
I'll never get my money back for that movie. Anyways, I think we have a fun interview to cut to, and then we'll see you guys on the other side with Jim McCann.
Cool. All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we have a writer for Marvel, Mr. Jim McCann. How's it going today, Jim?
Going well, thanks. How are you guys?
Doing
Fantastic.
Great.
Well, nice long weekend.
Lucky.
As you said, for what? For the freelance writing?
For freelancers, it's Sunday.
It's a normal Sunday.
It's just another day.
And here I was like all weekend saying like everybody has Monday off. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, trust me. Between having to do more for this, I don't have Monday off, and because of my day job, I work with a lot of people that work at gas stations and food markets and all this kind of stuff. You go around and be like, have a nice holiday weekend, and they'll kind of like give you the growl, like, yeah, holiday weekend, F you.
What's that?
Yeah, waiting tables was the worst because you're like, yeah, it's a holiday weekend. I'm going to end up serving you food while you don't have to cook.
Yeah, that's my weekend. Thanks. I picked up an extra shift. Now I have three double shifts. Yeah. But hey, man, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We got some cool stuff to talk about today, and I guess we always start off kind of I don't know. Chris wants to say what he wants to ask right away, but how did you get into the comic book industry? I guess what was your origin story? We've been playing off that kind of.
I was bitten by the radioactive comic bug.
Oh man, the dreadful book.
No, I actually from the time I was 10 when I started collecting comics, I always said that I wanted to work for Lucasfilm or Marvel. And I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, and I had the opportunity to be able to move up to New York, New Jersey, like right across the river from Manhattan. Mm-hmm. And so I took it. And right when I needed to find a job, a Monster.com alert popped up for a job opening at Marvel for a traffic coordinator, which does not mean that I was like waving cones.
You're like directing traffic outside the office. Like,
I was the hall monitor. Can I see a bathroom pass? Pardon me, Joe Quesada, you cannot use the restroom right now.
Yeah, it's
but it was a position where I actually got to know all the editors and a lot of the talent because we were making sure that books would stay on time, where things were. I saw the scripts as they came in. It was a really exciting and awesome crash course on how comics are made. Mm-hmm. And then they knew that I was a writer because I had been part of the ABC Daytime Writer Development Program. So I worked for soaps like One Life to Live and All My Children before.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And also I had a minor in English and theater and a TV film major, and had won awards for plays that I had written while in college. So I had a writing background, and there was a time when a writer was on a plane. This book had to go to print, and the editor couldn't reach him, and they needed to tweak dialogue it was a Spider-Man all ages comic. Mm-hmm. And they said, the art does not fit this joke. Can you just quickly correct it? Like, come up with something.
Yeah.
So I wrote a Spider-Man balloon.
Yeah.
That was my first thing, uncredited.
Oh, no. It started the balloon.
Yeah, and then we were doing Marvel Westerns, and I'm a big classic movie fan.
Mhm.
And I had a head cold, and I was on a lot of Dayquil. Just kind of stumbled into the editor who's overseeing the Westerns, and I said, Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy never did a Western. That's the only genre they never did. And he was like, okay, and? And I said, I want to write an 8-pager if they had ever done a Western. So he said, okay, go ahead. And so I wrote that 8-pager. And then I got to, my role evolved where I became the PR and publicity guy for Marvel. I ran all the panels at conventions, did that for about 6 years. Also took part in the big creative retreats that everybody now knows Marvel does. And we were talking about Secret Invasion and how we wanted to have a really big get for the fans, like surprise them at the end of it by saying, oh, well, this person has actually been alive and on the Skrull homeworld. And so I suggested Mockingbird be the one because she's a favorite character of mine. Hawkeye's been one of my favorite characters for a very long time. And I said they could be the Mr. and Mrs. Smith of the Marvel Universe.
Oh, yeah.
And Brian Bendis said, that's a great idea, and you should write that book. And I was like, okay.
Sure.
But to do that at Marvel, you can't write and work. So I went to part-time to do New Avengers: The Reunion, and it did well. And so I left Marvel and wrote to write full-time. That's when I wrote Hawkeye, Mockingbird, and then Widowmaker, and then Blind Spot. So I got to stay with Hawkeye and Mockingbird for like 2.5 years, and did a bunch of other one-shots. Prior to that, I had done a couple of what-ifs. And then I also started and wrote and co-created Return of the Dapper Men, which was my first creator-owned book that I did with my collaborator, Janet Lee, who was a gallery artist that I knew from Nashville, and a very good friend. We've been friends for 20 over years. And we ended up winning the Eisner for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you guys won an award for that. That's got to feel awesome for a first creator-owned, right? Like,
it was crazy. We thought that, Janet didn't even know sequential storytelling. She learned it as she went through this.
Wow.
And she ended up being nominated for the Russ Manning Award and for Best Artist.
That is so cool.
And so, yeah, we thought we were just going to have like a little calling card that was like, here's our little book that nobody's really heard of.
Yeah.
Her really unique art style just really caught on. And I guess my words had something to do with it.
Yeah, it might have, just a little bit.
But I've always said I want to do like an art-only version so people can see how amazing it is without these obnoxious balloons in the way in my words.
Yeah.
And then that led to me being able to do creator-owned at Image, Mind the Gap,
Yep.
Lost Vegas.
Las Vegas is a 4-issue series, right? That was really good.
Yeah, that was fun to do, and that Janet and I teamed up to do because we just kind of wanted to do something fun and a little bit different. And now we're back to work on the sequel, the follow-up to Return of the Dapper Men right now.
Oh, very cool.
Nice.
Okay.
So,
yeah, I know that's where I kind of you flew under my radar with Las Vegas.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was definitely I don't know, when you're looking across the comic book shop. I mean, this is before we even had a show or anything. I just remember seeing that cover kind of stuck out because everything's littered with like Marvel logos and DC logos, and that cover was kind of very bright. And I was like, I could use some not so seriousness in my life. And then I got into the 4 issues, and it was like if I had to describe it, kind of like your almost like an Ocean's 11 heist style, right?
That was, yep. We wanted to do Ocean's 11 meets young Han Solo, and this was
exactly.
Way before Solo was Star Wars.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Years before. Yeah. Just everyone knows years before.
Yes. So if you liked Solo, pick it up. If you didn't like Solo, we came before that, so pick it up. It's for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I mean, it was about a guy who had been captured as a slave captured because he was in way over his head and is now being forced to work off his debt on a giant cruiser that is basically a strip of Las Vegas in space for the 0.0001 percenters of the galaxy.
Yeah.
And he's a guy who thinks that he's more Danny Ocean from Ocean's 11, but is really more Han Solo when it comes down to his. So.
Yeah. So like, where did that idea come from? I mean, was it you just always had like a sci-fi story?
Yeah. I mean, well, I've always loved sci-fi movies. Han Solo is my favorite character, but then I also really love heist films, and I love gambling movies. And so, yeah, I mean, I like anything from The Hustler all the way up to like 21, all the Ocean's movies. Next week or 2 weeks, Ocean's 8 comes out, and I'm like, yes.
Yeah, we get that side of it now. That's pretty exciting. I think one of the things I really liked about Las Vegas was the idea of like, okay, they're all captured and they're slaves, or they're kind of working off their whatever they owe back, but they the fact that like they wake up every day and they have to put on the same face as everybody else with like the hologram, like, oh my god, that's like nobody knows who you are. You're not an individual. You're kind of just everybody's the same. We put this plain face on that won't offend anybody, and I don't know. Exactly. There's just something about that. It was really.
We were trying to think what would be the most inoffensive thing to anybody in the galaxy.
Yeah.
Decided to be a little tongue in cheek and make it an Aryan face.
Yeah, exactly.
It ended up having to be slaves.
Yeah.
For everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of interesting take on that.
The norm.
Yeah. Very cool. So now you're mainly just writing, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, I write full time. I've done, 4 junior novelizations for Disney, of the Marvel movies. So I did Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Black Panther, Thor Ragnarok, and Spider-Man Homecoming.
So let's talk about those really quick.
Yeah.
How does that work? You're trying to like mold these stories for a younger audience, or
I go in, I read the script. They let me know what spoiler points I can't do, stay away from. And because these books come out a month before the film, it's to get younger audiences and early grader readers or mid-grade readers, like ages 7 to 12, to get them into the movie and to go see it and introduce them to some of the characters. It'll come out a month before. And it usually only goes up to about either a little after the first act or right up to the second act.
Okay.
Because we don't want to give away the ending, and then there are certain things that we like kind of dance around or move from this here, move a chunk from a little bit later into the movie into the beginning, or I get the freedom to kind of ad-lib and make what I refer to as like deleted scenes in the book.
Yeah,
because I get the thumbs up from them to add this for me to be able to put in this new scene, and then it goes out. And what's funny is it'll get a lot of like positive reviews on Amazon, and then there's always like somebody who's like, "This isn't the whole thing."
It's not finished.
Yeah, and specifically for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. It ended right around the part where Yondu captures them.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole setup with Rocket and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the team had split up, and it was a really awkward way to kind of end the thing. So they said, "Here, why don't you write an alternate ending to get us out of here?"
Wow. Yeah.
And that was kind of fun to be able to be like, well, what if they didn't do this and they were here? And I think I got dinged on it one or two things. People were like, it didn't happen that way.
Yeah, I'm sure you get a lot of those people. I mean, those people are usually the most vocal, the ones that really don't care for it, right? But
yeah, but the people that actually see the word on the spine, junior novel,
exactly,
get what it is that we're going for. And it's a lot of fun. I get the scripts months in advance.
That's got to be awesome, right? I mean, that's really cool.
It is, but sometimes I'm like, oh God, I don't want to be spoiled for everything.
Yeah, that's tough too.
I remember, I think it was Black Panther. They told me where they wanted it to end before I read the script. And I specifically only read up to that point.
Yeah.
Because I had gone into 3 prior movies being like, I'm totally spoiled by this. I know exactly what happened.
Yeah, as a fan going into the movies, it's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but it was kind of interesting to see how they interpreted things, or how they may have reshot some things, moved things around, things were changed in editing, lines were ad-libbed, stuff like that, especially in Guardians of the Galaxy. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. I'm doing a couple of others for that. Can't say what right now. And then we're getting and starting to get back more into comics again.
Well, awesome. As someone who has a bunch of those lying around his house, since my girlfriend has 2 kids, thank you, because it's awesome to have something for the kids to read. They always reach for the comics, but it's this isn't appropriate for you.
Yeah. No,
I'm really curious. They're doing Marvel Superheroes Adventures mini novels. Are you involved in those?
No, but the authors of those, Mackenzie Cadenhead and Sean Ryan, are actually really good friends of mine. Mackenzie was the editor at Marvel at the time who asked me to do the Spider-Man tweak, actually, and they've gone on from editing to writing in their own right. And Mackenzie's a really great young adult author. She has a couple books under her belt that are originals. So she's doing that, and it's part of a kind of larger initiative. There's toys, there's 3 to 5 minute short animated bits, and then there's the chapter book line, and then they just launched my 5-issue comic series to go with it.
So we can jump into that. I purchased the first issue when it came out. Read it for myself because of this, but then I handed it to the kids because, once again, they like the comics, they get into them, but they're too much for them. So it's really great to see all ages inside the Marvel universe again that aren't just reprintings of the cartoons. So tell us a little bit about that. What was the initiative there, and what was your thought process going into it?
I had worked on a couple of things for Disney Marvel Press, including these Spider-Man. What is it? It's right over there. 5-minute Spidey stories. I had to look over where my 5-minute Spidey stories. And for those of you who don't have kids or may not know about it, it's really popular right now for these just a book that contains a bunch of 5-minute stories to read at bedtime. Yeah. And so I had written a Spidey and a Spidey plus the Avengers fighting Black Widow, who turns out to be Chameleon. Spoiler alert. And then one where Spidey teams up with Cloak and Dagger to fight Spot. So I got to write all sorts of fun characters.
Chris is laughing because Spot is his favorite character.
I love Spot.
Same here. I love this Spot. He's fantastic. And it was fun to use him and Cloak because they both, he like teleports through using Dark Force. So it was like, oh, yay, this makes total sense. And I always loved him, like, just because he was such a simple design. And I still remember that cover of Spidey where he's got there's a fist coming out of one black hole and another one coming. And you're just like, what is this craziness?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I literally judged a book by its cover and snatched that issue of him ever since. So the editor at Marvel who oversaw the story for that had moved over into editing other books. And so she got in touch with me, Sarah Prinstead, and asked if I would like to do the All Ages book. And so we really kind of brainstormed and thought about what we could do and how it could be done best. And I had suggested a Spidey team up, that it would be Spidey and then teaming up with different people. And each issue, we really want to have a lesson within there. So the first one was with Black Panther, and Spidey goes to Wakanda to fight Dr. Octopus. And it was to kind of teach people about teaming up and working together to help solve something, because Black Panther basically calls Spidey and says, one of yours is here. You need to come and clean it up.
Yeah, he's your villain. Come on.
Yeah. And so Spidey gets a free trip to Wakanda. And Black Panther has his idea of how to tackle it, and Spidey has his, and then they kind of realize how they can work together and take him down in a fun, all ages way.
It's really cool.
And each one will feature that. The next issue comes out on Wednesday, the 30th, and this one is a Doctor Strange Spidey team up fighting Hela, who ends up kind of Freaky Fridaying them into their astral forms into each other's body.
Oh, okay. I was wondering how, because I know the whole storytelling starts with him saying, "Well, I did try on a cape once."
Yeah.
I was like, okay, when do we get to see the cape?
You can see him.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I'm excited.
Use the cape of levitation.
And for someone like me, I know Chris says okay, they're all ages books, right? But something out of continuity is always good for me too, because I don't keep up with all of the Marvel books. I'm more of a DC Image person, but something like this, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I get Spider-Man, I get who Hela is, and it's fun to have something that's not super heavy in continuity all the time,
Well, we wanted to also use it to introduce the fun excitement of Marvel Comics, as well as the interesting characters that exist within there. The third issue, let's see here, we have those two. Then the next one is a little bit more obscure because it's got Scott and Cassie Lang and then Kate Bishop. So younger audiences are going to be exposed to. I mean, they've probably seen Scott Lang's Ant-Man if they watched the movie, but they may not know about Stinger, and they may not know about the Kate Bishop Hawkeye. And then after that, I believe they've all been solicited, so I can say who's in what.
We didn't ask for this info, I swear.
No. It's Spidey and Ms. Marvel with Locke. So,
wow.
Fighting another one of my personal favorite villains or group of villains, the Serpent Society.
Oh, wow.
And it was really fun because I got to create a new member for the Serpent Society who the whole thing kind of hinges around, and the lesson hinges around. And then the last issue that was just solicited, 5th issue, is Spidey and Inferno, who is a slightly lesser known Inhuman, one of the Inhuman kids from the T-Bomb, and fighting Venom. So that's going to be.
So do you have a pool of heroes for this? Do you have anyone did you have these in mind going into this, or were you okay, I have this whole pool to pull from?
They gave me a list of people that would be interesting to use or fun to use, and a lot of PDFs to read and comb through.
Yeah.
But then I also kind of took a look at. I'll be honest. I looked at what movies were going to be coming out at what time.
Yeah, of course.
And, this way stores have something to offer kids that are that come into the stores excited. They just saw the movie or they're about to see the movie, and they want to know more about them. And I don't necessarily know that you're going to give a kid the Venom in Vietnam book that's coming up.
No, not at all.
But you can give them Marvel superhero adventures with Venom in it. So
is that frowned upon?
Don't give the kids that book, please. Yeah, and it's like I was saying, everything's so serious, and but it's got to be fun for you to you get to mold everything, right? I mean,
it is. I mean, there's a lot of eyes that are on it, and so it's real. And also, you need to be conscious of like how many word balloons per panel. I try not to talk down to the kids, and also make it enjoyable for all ages, because I really believe in kind of elevating people's reading levels. And I think it's okay for somebody to take a moment to ask or look up what a word is. My parents weren't super huge fans of me reading Stephen King when I was in grade school and then early high school. But a little known thing that Stephen King does is he uses a lot of SAT words in his books. And so when it came time for SATs, I was like, scored really well in verbal.
Thanks, Stephen King.
Yeah. Thank you.
But I'm terrified of clowns, so
I know. And Pet Sematary. And
Pet Sematary is the worst for me. I mean that has to be.
I never finished it. I can't. Every time I try it.
Yeah, it's best if you don't, because it doesn't help trying to finish it. That's awesome that you get to kind of do your own take, and I mean, you said there's a lot of eyes on it too. But something that's more out of continuity. I mean, we just talked about the article before we recorded the show, but you see this article pop up everywhere about Brie Larson and your new Infinity Countdown book. So first off, let's talk about Infinity Countdown, your Captain Marvel book, and kind of like what's that about?
Well, we had with it, Marvel has Infinity Countdown right now that's leading into their next big Infinity event. And so in Infinity Countdown, the five, yeah, one of them you don't know. I have to be careful that I'm not giving any spoilers away. But there are 5 people that have stones, and Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, has the Reality Stone, and that enables her to communicate with other Captain Marvels throughout the multiverse who also are in possession of it on their Earths. And she uses it to be able to get information on how they may have handled a situation. But also, it has another side effect to it, where she can also. I can't give away part of this because it's a little bit
it's okay.
But let's just say this book gives you a good journey into who Carol is and what made her today, and if she had done anything different at any other point in her life, what would the outcome have been? And so on the big 2-page spread where she's talking to a bunch of different Captain Marvels on how they handled Blastar, there's a bunch of different Captain Marvels that are seen in a number of the circles, and all kind of chiming in. Anybody who's ever had the mantle of Captain Marvel, basically. So you have Gina Spell and Phyla Vell and Monica Rambeau and of course Marvel, and Carol, and then throughout the course of this book, you're going to see other iterations, and I don't want to give anything away because it was actually a lot of fun to go through and be like, this happened. And,
like a what if scenario. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and kind of create, or not create, but spotlight multiverses that actually I got to create parts of. So that was a lot of fun, and I don't know if anybody will ever pick up on any of them ever again. But I wrote it like, here's a fun little take over here. So where this happened, and this is what, and I got to like play with powers a little bit on how you can use on how different characters were able to use their powers. And so that was a lot of fun. And then that 2-page spread that introduces a lot of them, like you said, has now gone viral all over the internet. Because
publicity is good publicity, right?
Yeah. There's one little circle. She doesn't even speak or anything, but it's she kind of looks like Brie Larson, and the character's wearing something that kind of looks like the Captain Marvel suit from the movie, and it's kind of colored like it too. But it's just a little Easter egg that he drew in, and I didn't even personally realize it because I was looking at the ones who speak mainly, and then also there's, if you look at the bottom right corner, there's a little bit of a Shazam Captain Marvel.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
On the side, but it's not like enough. But I'm not saying that's who it is. I'm saying,
of course not.
No, you don't see a face.
Yeah.
But there were just fun little nods in there, and hopefully.
So you're telling me that in the script it didn't specifically say I want this guy here and this guy here. That maybe the artist took creative license with it a little bit.
I mean, I said these are the characters that definitely need to be in it. And then it would be fun to see iterations where Carol was this, or Philo was like this, or or Marvel was this way. And but I mean, he drew if you look at the 2-page spread, there's I can't even count how many. I would say something like 30, 40.
Yeah, there's a lot. There are a lot.
So there's even a Marvel Zombies verse version of her. So
there's one that has a sword, which is badass.
Yeah, well, that was for a while. Phyla had a sword.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that she was in there. There's also one where Carol is in the Spectrum Monica Rambeau costume, and her hair is pulled back and in blonde dreads.
Oh yeah, yep.
So I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah, there's a lot. There has to be at least 30. It's a huge splash page. Yeah, that was really cool. Awesome, and I think it's cool too. I mean, getting back to the all ages stuff, we don't really get to talk about it a lot on here, but when we're walking around cons, you kind of see a lot of, there's some children book writers and younger comics tables set up. But I've always talked to even people at work when they always think, oh, comics are just for kids. I'm like, no, they're not. I mean, most of them are for adults now, but I think it's a really good tool to use to get kids into reading.
Oh, it's definitely a wonderful tool to be able to get reluctant readers and early readers in. And it's also the only form that uses both sides of the brain at the same time. Oh. One side is interpreting the words while the other side of the brain is interpreting the art, and they're working in tandem. So that's kind of what helps a lot of people. We've heard from when I was at Marvel, I heard this, and then also just doing all ages books for so long, teachers have come up to me and parents have come up to me and they've said, my child had dyslexia, and this kind of actually really helped them feel more comfortable reading. And other people are like, well, we had a lot of reluctant readers, but when there's Spider-Man talking, of course somebody's going to read.
Yeah, they're going to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's really
when
good.
Spidey speaks, you have to.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really cool too, as somebody who deals with schools now all the time. Like, it used to be when I was younger, and Mike's around the same age, so he knows. Like, comics were frowned on, especially when it came to reading.
Mm-hmm.
And now when you talk to teachers, and like, our oldest kid has a reading log, he's in kindergarten. I asked her, I said, we read comics almost every night together. Do those count towards his reading log? And it turned into a whole back and forth with her. She's like, reading's reading. That is what it is. And if you're reading with him and he's reading those, it's reading. So it's great to see that kind of turn on itself nowadays, especially since I spent all that time being like, that's not really reading.
No, I would sneak comics in like one of those folders in high school. The pocket folders that we had.
Oh yeah.
I would load those up with comics, and then I would just hold that open, and there'd be a comic in there. I'd just be reading that in class.
Instead of the textbook.
Yeah, and then flash forward like 15, 20 years, I had I had way more graphic novels than I could possibly store, because when I worked at Marvel, I got all of the, every single book and trade that we published each week. And then also just a lot that I had either upgraded to deluxe editions or omnibuses and things like that. So I donated something like 200 trades to my high school. And they ended up opening a graphic novel section.
That is so cool.
That's awesome.
In my name.
Yeah.
It's now people can come and get away with reading comics in class.
Now everybody's doing it.
I know.
It's awesome.
I had to sneak it in, and you get points for it.
That is so cool. I mean, that's awesome. Comics are more serious than people think. I mean, me myself, I'll be reading stuff, and it's like, I have no idea what that word means. I need to look it up. I've never seen this word before in my entire life. I need to look this up. It's
they tackle a lot of different themes, and it was a lot of fun.
Cool.
I love working in comics.
Yeah. I mean, it's like your dream come true, right? That's awesome.
Completely, yeah. Next stop, Lucasfilm.
There you go.
And then your old Jim will be happy. Or maybe I just read a Star Wars comic, and that will make Jim happy.
So I wanted to talk about that. I know you said the Lucasfilm before we get into this thing that we have at the end of the interview. But have you had any ideas to pitch like a Star Wars comic? Like, who? Obviously, you want to write a Han Solo book, or what? No, I mean, like who would be the character that you would want to write? Right?
Oh, I mean, who doesn't want to tackle Han? But there's a couple of Star Wars stories that I actually have ideas for, and a couple of pitches that I'm actually kind of working on in case they ever like ask me. But also IDW has the all ages Star Wars line, Star Wars Adventures, and so can't really answer that right now. I'm not saying that I'm doing one for them yet.
That's fine. Yeah.
I may have spoken with the editor.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
So,
there you go. Now, I mean, those are your two main goals, right? Star Wars and Marvel. So.
And if I get that, that's another all ages.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool.
Well, I think that's a great place to end the interview. So it's been awesome.
Cool.
Thanks for being on the show. And
thanks for having me. It's been fun.
So now, where can people find you if they want to follow Jim McCann?
Let's see. Well, I have my Twitter is at Jim McCann.
Okay.
And then I'm also Jim McCann on Facebook, and on Instagram, Jim McCann. I got lucky enough. All of those people I was able to snag my name.
There's like 3 other Michael Rickers when I try to do all that stuff. It sucks.
Well, there's the Jim McCann, who's the owner of 1-800-Flowers, and somehow they didn't snag those, and I did. So I was like, okay, I'll take it.
You win. Awesome. Well, they'll certainly they can find you there and check out your 2 new books you got coming out next week. Thanks for being on the show again. It was a blast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And we're back.
Hey,
Jim was fun.
Yeah, what an awesome guy. And we never really get to talk about the subject of comics being reading material, right? Because a lot of people enjoy it. It's so much fun. And then here we are saying, hey, it is reading material, and you're learning new vocabulary from it. You're expanding your imagination, even though there are pictures. Yeah, cool stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk comic news.
So there's only one really big comic news story this week, and it's that Jerry Duggan has been announced to be writing a Star Wars book about Beckett from Solo.
Oh, wow. Great.
So, I know you didn't see the movie, but
Yeah.
Beckett was one of the highlights of it. I thought he was really good.
That's cool.
And I'll be interested to see kind of his origin story as to how he came about in this underworld, and to have Jerry Duggan writing anything, I'm down. So good with me. It's a Star Wars book, so I'll read it. I read them all.
Exactly. Chris is buying it.
Cha-ching.
Cha-ching. All right, let's talk about what we read this week.
Okay, I got a nice big selection for you.
Is that sarcasm? Sarcasm?
No, it's not.
Oh, wow. I only had a couple this week. Plus, while I'm reading, I finished Black Hammer Volume 2. I read. Let's start with Hit Girl number 4. This was the finale to the new Hit Girl story arc with Mark Miller. Obviously, there's a conclusion of why she hired this villain to kill off all the cartel and all these other gangs with her. We find out that she was kind of setting him up to get killed in the end, and he did some terrible stuff when he was a criminal. So she kind of wanted him to pay for that. And then at the end, Hit Girl kind of is like, okay, where am I going to go next? And she kind of drops a pin on a globe, and it says Canada. And so I didn't know this. We didn't actually get to talk to Jeff Lemire about it, but the next story arc is Hit Girl in Canada, and Jeff Lemire is writing it.
Really?
Yeah, so we're gonna have to get him back on the show and talk about that, because that is awesome. I mean, we know from being on the show that, you can tell by his accent, he's from Canada. He's very Canadian. So it'd be fitting that he would write the installment that takes place in Canada. Yeah, so I think it's interesting. It's the Great White North. It's going to be Hit Girl and basically on planet Hoth. So we'll see how that turns out. It's cool that Mark Miller is giving up the book though for other people to take on the character, especially like Jeff Lemire. I mean, come on, is there anybody else you'd rather write that book? And then I finished. Speaking of Jeff Lemire, I finished Black Hammer Volume 2 this week, where we finally see that they're kind of. They're still trying to get out of the town, but after the Hammer, his daughter shows up. Is that what his name is? He, whoever the hero is that wields the hammer, he's basically Thor, right? I mean, he gets the hammer and he transforms into the hero. And his daughter ends up in the dimension where they are. Well, it ends with her picking up the hammer and becoming the hero that her father was. So they're basically all his version of the Justice League is all back together. And I know you read it issue by issue, so they're probably going to get more into, they're getting more anxious to leave the area, is kind of what it seems like. They've kind of grown used to this dimension that they're in where nothing really seems right, and now they're starting to push back and say, okay, now they're questioning where they are and how they can get out of there. Actually, for trades, I started reading, there was a sale on 60s Batman trades on Comixology, so I picked up 60s Batman meets the Green Hornet. I've been reading that one. Then I got the 60s Batman meets Wonder Woman, which is another great one, so I'm reading through those right now. No Justice, number 3, Justice League No Justice.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy book, lots of crazy splash pages. basically shit hits the fan in this issue. The seeds on Earth, I mean, the series of events, they basically fail on that planet, and the grand villain, whatever I forget what they're called. What are they called? The giant things, the Galactus, basically.
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called. I just keep calling them Celestials in my mind.
Celestials, yeah, because they're just like the Marvel Celestials. The Celestials come and they take that planet, and just in the nick of time, the Justice League gets away while Amanda Waller and Green Arrow are fighting on Earth, and realize, oh man, the seeds are starting to sprout. So now the trees of the 4 different trees, that the wisdom, there's the wisdom, the magic one, the entropy one, and there's the 4th one, but they all start sprouting on Earth, which means that the celestial beings are going to come to Earth, and it looks like there's going to be an all-out war. Amanda Waller thinks that they're powerless against it. Green Arrow thinks that if he calls in the lanterns, that they can defend against it. So I'm hoping to see a giant war I want to see a lantern war happen. Calling the recruits, everybody to Earth. At least that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, and so you mentioned everything I enjoyed, but there was one moment in there too that I really liked, which was Starro transforming into his final form.
Yes, Starro, giant Starro, which was awesome.
And then he latches to this thing's head, and this is like, he's being all cocky about it, like, I got this, and I'm going to take him over, and blah, blah. And then the thing just rips him in half.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Yeah, that was a little
how do you fight this?
I actually felt bad for Starro, too. Like, Scott Snyder actually made me, like, have feelings. I was like, man, Starro's gone. If you would have told me, like, a few months ago that, hey, there's going to be a book out and you're going to be upset about Starro leaving, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Why would I care? But yeah, that's kind of what I had to read for the week.
Cool. So I finished reading volume 1 of 52.
Oh, okay.
Really fucking good.
That's the volume 1 has the scene with Black Adam ripping someone's arms off, right?
I don't remember that scene, so.
Oh, okay. That's all I remember.
It's 13 issues. It's dense. I mean, it's for the best writers in modern comics, and they tell basically 5 intertwining stories all at once, and none of them involve Superman, Batman, or Wonder Woman. So it was very interesting to go through, and I like the through line that they went. I'll be interested to start volume 2, although I gotta admit I'm taking a break from it because it was so dense that it took a lot out of me.
It's a really slow read for sure.
So I gotta catch up on other stuff and before I jump in, but I really enjoyed that. And then I got a giant stack here. So I got Cosmo number 5. It's the end of Ian Flynn's little space all ages story, and it was a lot of fun. They did kind of like a video game thing where Cosmo gets sucked into an arcade cabinet and is basically turned into Mario.
That's pretty cool.
It was cool, and it sets itself up for future stories if they decide to do more, which I hope they do.
Mm-hmm.
The Terrifics number 4. What a heart-wrenching story that involves Plastic Man. The team is going to the planet where what's her name, Shadow Girl, or I'm not a DC fan, guys, leave me alone. I forget her name now, but anyway, she going to this planet, she hasn't seen her family in years, and they have a little adventure, and they run into something, and they have like a Star Wars scene where they're stuck in a trash compactor. And then when that's all done, they finally get to the planet, and nobody had the heart to tell her that all this time had passed while she was in the dark multiverse. Mm-hmm. And her father had died, and her mother is like 80 years old. And so it's just like this really heart-wrenching scene, especially since she hasn't been able to touch anybody. She's been stuck in her like astral form, invisible form. And when she gets to the planet, she can finally touch people, and like the entire tribe comes and gives her a hug, and Jeff Lemire hits you right in the heartstrings with that one.
Yeah, he's really good at the feels, man. I decided to take a break from Royal City. He definitely knows how to make you depressed.
Cullen Bunn had Brothers Dracul #2 out, and basically that if you read issue 1, they ran into a vampire at the end of this cave, and it's them killing the vampire and then coming back and talking about it, and the son of the Sultan that the two brothers are supposed to be protecting, they lied and told everybody that he was the one that did it when really it was the brothers. And it's kind of just this back and forth of nobody really believes you, but you keep insisting that it was you. And then they go back into the cave to find even more vampires.
Oh, of course.
And then there's this whole like resurrection scene that I'm not sure what the hell's happened. Basically, Conan the Barbarian comes out of a pool of blood and then runs into more vampires. I'm sure that's going to be explained more later on, but it was very confusing. Also, Jeff Lemire. By the way, Jeff Lemire and Cullen Bunn this week killed it.
Yeah.
So Jeff Lemire, Black Hammer, Age of Doom #2, where Hammer and we in the last issue find out that she's in this bar, and that bar is kind of in purgatory. Oh. And so a guy at the bar is like, "Oh, I'll help you get out of here." And so he helps her and sends her to hell.
Of course.
And she has a fight with the devil, and then she finds this guy, and they leave after basically killing a ton of demons.
Hell yeah.
And they end up in the dream world. So I feel like this is going to be Jeff Lemire doing Sandman.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And
interesting.
At the same time, the people at the main cast is trying to figure out what happened to her and what she was talking about issues ago, and they go to the library and try to look up local town history and everything. So, book's been fantastic. And then I got some Star Wars. Star Wars #48. This whole storyline has been taking place in the Mon Calamari planet.
Yeah,
and it's kind of the conclusion to that, where the king has. It's the next issue will be the conclusion, but the king has passed, but he's left a message for the rebels, kind of saying like, you don't have to fight, but we know the Empire is evil and we should do something about it, because the rebels are on planet trying to get the Mon Calamari to join their fleet so that they can fight the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And we end on that message being sent across, and then just a bunch of Imperial starfighters jumping onto these Mon Calamari ships.
Oh, no.
So next issue should be fun. And then, once again, Cullen Bunn. Star Wars Annual #4, where... So Smuggler finds these two Sith lightsabers. Of course, one gets in the hand of Darth Vader, and one gets in the hands of Luke Skywalker. And while Luke's trying to run away and figure out what's going on, he jumps into the middle of a pod race. And then he has to pod race. And that's basically the story, but it was fantastic because we got pod racing again, and we got Luke pod racing again.
Please.
And there's a moment where Darth Vader's standing in the stands holding this ancient lightsaber, which, by the way, looks a lot like Kylo Ren's lightsaber.
Oh, okay.
And he's holding it, and the announcers are talking, be like, "No humans ever won this before. No humans really ever win in these circuits, except for one time in this really small circuit on this planet in Tatooine." And they're like, "Yeah, it was you, Darth Vader." Yeah, but it was really cool. If you like that part of episode 1 with the pod racing, it was a lot of fun. Yeah. I really liked it.
This is pod racing.
And then some past guests of the show. So Javon Stokes had Heat issue 3 come out.
Oh yeah.
Finishes up the first storyline really well. We kind of get the idea that Heat doesn't think he deserves to be alive and doesn't think that he deserves the mantle he has.
Wow.
And it goes a little dark because the villain, he's really doing this just so he can get money to see his daughter again.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say the irony there is pretty thick, because he does something that caused him to never be able to see his daughter again.
Wow.
Javon did a really great job in that first arc. I hope he keeps doing them. And then if you saw my interview at Nickel City Comic Con, I talked to Nigel, and we talked about Anansi.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, it's some of his. He grows with every book he does.
Yeah.
And I like that about him. So this is a story about. It's an old folks tale from Trinidad, which, if you watch the interview, you know that Nigel's from Trinidad.
Yep.
And it's about this spider that tricks the animals in the forest, and eventually it comes back to haunt him. Well, he turned that into a superhero story.
Wow.
And what's really cool about it is part of the story takes place in Rochester, New York.
Oh, that's so cool.
Is where I'm from, and Mike went to school there, so it was really cool to kind of see Rochester on the map in comics.
Yeah.
Really cool. Check that out. Both those out. Both those guys are doing really good independent work. And that's all my comics, Mike.
Yeah, you only read a few this week.
I read quite a bit.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, where can everybody find you, Christopher?
Well, they can find me on Twitter at Fortres Chris. What about you, Mike?
You can find me at Fortress Ricker on Twitter. I've been getting some more follows just through knowing you. I think they see you and then they see me and they're like, "Huh." I think their names are starting to add up. They're starting to put two and two together. Yeah.
So yeah, you can find the show at FCN_official on Twitter, and also FortresComicNews.com. Make sure you hit the website up. Everything we do there is posted there. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, do all that fun stuff, comment below. You know what to do. If you're listening on iTunes, reviews. We've gotten quite a few more. I'm going to commit to, if you leave a review and you leave text in the review, we will shout out to you in the show. So yeah, leave us reviews there. It helps us reach more ears. And I think that's everything.
Yeah.
I forgot. So we recorded the first segment for this, but if you go to patreon.com/FortresComicNews and donate $1 a month, you'll get an exclusive podcast moving forward. And podcast is going to be me and Mike playing a game against the guests that we have in the show. So it's going to be a very simple game of comic book 20 questions. Yes, I stole this idea from another podcast and I really enjoyed it, but we're doing it comic book style. And I think the first one turned out to be a lot of fun. And I'm sure the rest of our guests will be just as fun as we do them. So go there, do that, and get more Mike and Chris in your ears.
Nice.
So everybody, thanks for listening.
Enjoy Memorial Weekend, everybody.